is only the best course of action in a crisis, given the available options. In light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, is crypto beneficial? Is that bad? Neutral? Answering that question is difficult. With cryptocurrency becoming a more widely accepted component of the international financial system, it seems inevitable that it will also play a role in conflicts between nations, for better or worse. As Russian forces encroach on Ukraine, this is clearly visible. As a substitute for Ukrainian financial institutions, which restrict access to bank accounts and foreign currency, some Ukrainians are also using cryptocurrencies. It is challenging to rely on conventional banks in a situation where governments are in disarray and there is concern over surveillance. Therefore, a system that is largely anonymous and doesn't involve the government is desirable. Since the start of the operation against Ukraine, the use of Bitcoin has increased significantly in Russia. The elites may be exploiting it to avoid sanctions, while regular people perceive it as a method to maintain their purchasing power. Bitcoin may be a weakness in the current economic penalties against Russian oligarchs. Data indicates that since Russia invaded Ukraine, interest in the virtual currency has increased in Russia. A rising number of people are worried that the country's magnates are switching their rubles for Bitcoin in order to get around the international limits on their accounts. Because cryptocurrencies operate in a closed system and are not subject to central bank regulation, users in Russia could be able to keep onto their funds and eventually convert them to dollars. In addition, Bitcoin is rising while the ruble has been falling recently, so the oligarchs wouldn't lose any purchasing power. Contrary to bank transactions, which have been impacted by the decision to exclude Russia from the SWIFT payment platform and the fact that Visa, MasterCard, and American Express have ceased all operations in the country, cryptocurrency movements are not linked to a user's identity. So, in order to get around Western economic sanctions, do Russian oligarchs use cryptocurrencies? That might be the situation. But before the sanctions were put in place, the majority of their capital was probably already secure. We must consider the possibility that these oligarchs may have groupings of companies that operate in various jurisdictions or have their fiscal residence in another nation, making it possible to at least partially escape the new penalties. However, there has been motion. Some of these magnates started purchasing cryptocurrencies months ago, as the French business newspaper Les Echos revealed. But it remains to be seen if they will be able to get their money back. This will mostly rely on how much exchanges and other digital currency platforms decide to get involved in the conflict. In order to comply with Washington's sanctions, representatives from the White House and the Treasury met with some of the major exchanges and requested that they cease operations in Russia. One of the biggest trading platforms, Binance, declined. According to Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, we distinguish between the Russian leaders that instigate wars and the average people. Many ordinary Russians do not agree with war. Many proponents of cryptocurrencies contend that regulating the industry goes against the essence of the technology. Although the majority of exchanges are complying with the European Union and US directives to cease operations in Russia, some have just decided to restrict access to specific accounts. But they need to know who to target in order to do this. Workings of the platforms. Finding a seller is necessary for anyone who wants to purchase Bitcoin. There are two ways to do this. Either they use an exchange, which may or may not be regulated, or they conduct the transaction online, running the risk of being scammed. To protect their transactions, most customers choose regulated exchanges like Binance, Kraken, and Coinbase. These platforms are crucial for two reasons. First, they need client identification, and second, they are the only significant forks of the Bitcoin network. Blockchain, a mechanism that displays the amount of money held by each address or user, is the foundation of Bitcoin. The exchanges are the addresses with the most amount of Bitcoin. An oligarch will need to use one of those services if they want to purchase a lot of Bitcoin. Users must upload a passport and supporting identification in order to register on a regulated exchange. They must also provide proof of the money's origin if they want to purchase cryptocurrencies. The premise is that any exchange could be beneficial in a police investigation, even a money laundering probe. Nobody can prevent someone from giving a $50 banknote to another individual. It holds true for Bitcoin transactions as well. However, intermediaries, like banks or exchanges in the case of cryptocurrencies, can be blocked. The day after the invasion started, on February 25th, Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, ECB, stated that the EU needed legislation to curb the flow of Russian capital, among other things. The law already outlines procedures for governmental interference in Bitcoin wallets. Red flags will be raised for anyone who deposits sizable amounts of dollars made from Bitcoins in Swiss bank accounts, as Russian billionaires frequently do, or in another tax haven. The establishment of an international financial register that keeps track of who owns what in which nations would be sufficient for Western nations. Authorities also have the option of selectively interfering before the exchange of currencies. As with wallets originating from hacking or drug trafficking, there are businesses, including exchanges, that can designate wallets that have been linked to the Russian government or its allies. However, not all transactions from Russian residents should be tracked and stopped. Since the war started, use of cryptocurrencies, particularly Bitcoin, has risen in Russia and Ukraine. According to CryptoCompare data compiled by Euronews, approximately $140 million worth of rubles have been converted to Bitcoin in the last few days. Similar to what Venezuelans and Argentines did before them when their economy started to falter, Russian residents have resorted to the decentralized digital currency as a way to maintain their purchasing power in the face of the collapse of the ruble. People have been converting their money into Bitcoin so that it can be easily transported. They can carry their savings on a USB drive and protect them from devaluing at a time of great uncertainty. In Ukraine, which prior to the invasion ranked fourth globally in terms of adoption of cryptocurrencies. To pay for the nation's defense against Russia, the Ukrainian government is also reliant on Bitcoin donations. People who want to contribute are being urged to send money to the government's official Twitter accounts' Bitcoin and Ethereum addresses. Donors had transferred more than $15 million in cryptocurrency as of March 1st. Since its establishment in 2014, in response to the Russian invasion of Crimea, the Ukrainian NGO Come Back Alive has also raised $8.5 million in Bitcoins. According to the Financial Times, Ukraine also intends to issue NFTs, non-fungible digital tokens, to aid in the conflict with Russia. An NFT of the Ukrainian flag was sold at auction last week by one of the founders of the Russian protest group Pussy Riot for more than €6 million, $6.7 million, with the money going to help those who had been harmed by the conflict. The recent Russian invasion on Ukraine has prompted major cryptocurrency companies to take action against attempts to circumvent sanctions by using cryptocurrency. However, governments now have stronger legal and technological defenses that enable them to mitigate the threats posed by cryptocurrencies. The sanctioning countries can identify the amount moved and look into shady operations even if they may not be aware of the origin of the monies transferred. Although Russia might be able to hide its ownership of cryptocurrencies using a network of exchanges, Bitcoin cannot lift the burden of sanctions off Russia's economy. The relatively low liquidity in the Russian cryptocurrency trade severely restricts the ability to transfer substantial sums of rubles through Russian cryptocurrency exchanges. Liquidity describes how quickly an asset or security, in this example Bitcoin, may be changed from one form of payment to another without depreciating in value. A transaction is simpler to complete and has less of an impact on the exchange rate when there are more buyers and sellers in the market. It is difficult when there are fewer buyers and vendors. The value of orders submitted by buyers and sellers at any given time is a gauge of the liquidity of the Russian Bitcoin exchanges. This is almost 200,000 US dollars, 110 times more than the 22 million US dollars traded on US-based cryptocurrency platforms. These figures imply that it will be challenging for anyone to trade significant amounts of Bitcoin for rubles. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you liked our video if you want to see more.